That was also the first.
Actually, in general, networking, like multiplayer cutscenes were very difficult for us to handle all of the cases of, okay, what if you start the cutscene and then 10 seconds later someone else runs in and wants to start the cutscene? What happens?
We had a very sophisticated engine system of brute force designer work.
Right.
So
yeah, all of the networking was kind of up to the designers to make sure
we didn't create a situation that was impossible to network. That was cool.
And actually, speaking more of the networking, we put a lot of constraints on ourselves to fix it by design, I suppose. So like we simulated 1 second latencies at all times. So we couldn't have any design that required low latency. We also simulated, lots of packet loss at all times.
You're gonna get the symbol.
That way we could ensure that even if you connect with someone in Japan, it's still a very good experience. It's the same experience you have if you're connected to your next door neighbor.
And so a lot of the initial multiplayer mechanics we tried didn't end up working out because of those networking constraints we put on ourselves.
That's a pro move right there.
You have to have played this game a few times to know the
couple
secrets.
times.
We've played this game a few times. So this whole area is kind of an interesting design idea because this whole level is based on this movement through the space, and that kind of makes it difficult to connect to players. However, this area it allows you to slow down, and it's kind of like that other level we were talking about, where players traverse the same area for more time, so they have more chance of connecting to each other.
Now
we just demonstrated that.
Yeah, if that's the same guy.
So what's his symbol? Check his name.
And this area kind of breaks up the pacing of this level, so we called it the slowdown area internally.
You can take a breath from all the excitement.
Yeah, if it was just surfing all straight through, it'd get kind of tiresome.
I think
different guy.
Is it?
Yeah, different symbol.
No, interesting.
It's worth noting, most of the music in this game is sort of introspective and slow in various forms, but this whole level has some of the more flashy music, but it's all very solo driven.
The sand there combined with the shadow is just really impressive. I was, I've looked at this game hundreds, thousands of times, but just today looking at this after a while, now playing Journey, it's still so beautiful.
I can see a few things we could make a bit more beautiful here. Just had some more time. 3 years, not enough. Kidding.
That's fine with me. I never got tired of working on it, I have to say.
Oh, what's he trying to do?
I think he's going for the symbol, the secret.
Oh, maybe you can
we already
show
got it.
I think we are running out of time, guys. We need to leave our friends behind.
Well, sometimes that must happen.
Maybe he's going to come to us.
Come up.
Could this be in the first playthrough? Can we check his cape, see if this is
It's got a pretty long
He has a huge cape.
But you kind of gave him an extra boost there.
But his cape does not have the rim.
Yeah, he's been good at collecting symbols, but...
Wait, he's the same. Okay, second round.
Oh, he's still going to try to go for it.
Well, it's over.
See you on the other side,
it's
buddy.
Life.
I love this cue right here. Tina Guo is the cello soloist on this score, and I just love the way she plays. And this cue in particular. This cue also has the one that everyone is insisting is an iPhone ring.
I think it is.
It's not. No, I have.
Genova started the rumor.
I have proof from our amazing music editor Ted Coker. He did this hilarious. He sent me an MP3 of a hilarious side-by-side comparison. It's just the flute playing in F sharp, and it happens to sound very similar.
Oh.
And there's apparently on the French iTunes store there were like 20 comments in a row that were like, "I swear there's a bug. They're gonna re-release. There's a bug."
Wait, so it is actually in the iTunes album?
Well, yeah, because it's the instrument. It just sounds similar, but it's not actually the iPhone thing. It's just it's like a music version of an optical illusion. It just sounds in that context sort of like it.
So speaking of optical illusions, this whole area
doesn't exist.
is very designed to work from this camera angle in that none of these models actually have detailed texture work, and we needed to make this idea of the player going through the sunken city, but we didn't have really a lot of time to make a huge city, so I decided the best option was for us to make it backlit so that we could make it something pretty but also easier to create. And it actually became one of the more memorable moments in the game.
Well, this, I think, was a really good example of Matt kind of working with the constraints from the technology, where we had just added high dynamic range rendering, which allows you to do the really bright, hot sand and hot sun. And the problem with it is it required Matt to basically go and redo all of the environments throughout the entire game. And maybe he hated it, but he
absolutely worth it.
He just made it work.
Without that, we weren't able to produce the colors that everyone wanted. So it was really great that that technology came in.
Especially for like this upcoming level where you're sort of underground, it was very important for making that look right.
Yeah, the contrast between the two. It's really emotionally striking.
I know, a different person maybe.
I think it's a different person. Their cloth is shorter.
Yeah.
So is this our third partner?
I think so.
I'm glad there are people actually playing Journey. We thought, maybe after a month the game is out, people it would be very barren, vacant in this space, but so far it's pretty good attendance.
Well, I am still pretty interested to boot up Journey in a year or two from now, and feel like if you encounter anyone at that time,
think how much more emotional that
you'll want to stick together.
Become more powerful.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of funny how the aging of it like that will actually, I think, maybe even engender more emotion.
Sure.
During the early days,
thought of that before.
I was talking to Robin, and we were talking about what is the kind of equivalent thing of Journey as a virtual space on the internet, and we were saying this is going to be more like a theme park or like a gallery or a museum, which when the museum first opened, a lot of people would come in to check out the space and have a shared experience. But the same show could get old after a year. Maybe there wouldn't be a lot of people, but if you are coming back to see the same exhibition and a year later you run into someone else, that would be a very strong, I guess, emotional experience.
You share a certain connection.
Right.
Yeah,
Same kind of personality.
You know that there's a high probability you both have Journey tattoos.
Where did you guys all get yours?
There's a good place on Melrose that specializes in Journey tattoos, so they do that and other.
I meant like on the thigh.
Oh, where on the body?
Yeah.
Well, this is a rated E commentary.
So this is one of my favorite levels in the game, personally.
It's the first level that has a really dramatic color shift.
Right. I think it's very unexpected as well, because most people, when they see Journey, they're like, okay, it's desert, that's cool, but they're definitely not expecting to go underground or even underwater. Like some people, there is sort of this mystery of, is this underwater, is it underground, what is this space?
And that kind of mystery gives it a sense of, I don't know, magical quality, because and that's something that we definitely wanted to keep the player feeling, especially this moment where we are about to introduce more kind of life in the form of the cloth kelp.
This is very much a sort of Alice in Wonderland, down the rabbit hole kind of moment. I mean, kind of literally you fall into this area.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about the hero's journey much so far. I think this is probably something the player should know.
Fist symbol.
Different player, yeah. So when we design the journey, what the player has to go through, we designed it based on Joseph Campbell, who is a comparative mythologist. He wrote multiple books about what he learned between multiple religions and folk tales and just these stories that has been passed around for thousands of years around the world, from Japan to Native America. And he found that among all these stories, they have this very similar story arc, similar structure. And Journey is very much like a faithful recreation based on the structure. And like John was mentioning about Alice in Wonderland, sliding down into the rabbit hole, enter a different magical kingdom. It actually happens in a lot of the things. And George Lucas, who wrote the original Star Wars, read the book, and he actually changed the story of Star Wars to be more faithfully following the hero's journey.
Which is what made Joseph Campbell famous.
Yes.
That was when Star Wars came out and made hundreds of millions of dollars. Everyone said, well, how'd you come up with this? And he said Joseph Campbell, who was like this sort of quiet academic guy who suddenly found himself a celebrity.
One thing that, the reason why we did that was we really wanted to make Journey something that resonated deeply with people of all kind of backgrounds. And so we tried to hit upon kind of a deeper emotional story arc. And so that was kind of a way for us to figure that out.
I feel like that is one of the things that games can do so well. Like there's just something about kind of reaching that fundamental part of every person. I don't know, because you're interacting with it or for whatever reason, it's just a real strength of games as a medium. It really lends itself to doing these very kind of fundamental human emotions.
Yeah, because there's no, the extension of not so much the narrative of the hero's journey and the monomyth, but also the fact that there's no language in the game, which we haven't talked about here either yet. But
well, that guy keeps saying fist.
So this whole area is where things start to get a little bit scary, and
a little dicey.
We kind of lead into that with the previous room where you actually fall through a broken floor and the music drops out, and we have these kind of statues that are lit from below in this kind of scary tone to set this eerie mood. A lot of kind of stage setting.
What do you call this hallway then?
For a long time, this hallway was a little too stagey, and we called it the Halloween hallway.
Right.
Because we had a lot of flashing lights, and it was a little bit over the top. But we toned it down, and I think it's serving its purpose well now. Here we see the Guardian attack this swarm of cloth creatures because we need to illustrate to the player that this is one of its abilities, and
It's bad, basically.
This is something they always talk about in Half-Life, is learn by death by proxy. So that's a technique that can work even in Journey.
Yeah, it was kind of a challenge creating these creatures because we wanted them to be very scary, but in a lot of tension. But we didn't want it to be overly frustrating. We mainly wanted you to feel like you're sneaking around and trying to hide from them, not really fighting them or getting pummeled by them. And of course, we couldn't actually kill the player, so we didn't really have, for a long time, we didn't know like what the punishment was for actually getting caught by these things. We knew we had to have some punishment, or players would just not take them seriously. And so the final thing we settled on was, well, they'll just rip off half of your flying ability, which
definitely hurts.
Yeah, it hurts a lot, and so I think that ended up working out pretty well.
That happened sort of nicely in tune with the sort of the sort of overall arc of determining the design of your cloth, your scarf, and kind of the extent to which, because originally you would gather actual cloth. I mean, like a long time ago,
right?
You would actually pick it up, but that sort of hoarding mentality would immediately come in when players felt like they were collecting something physical.
And they would start sort of competing to you got spotted. So, yeah, even though Matt's trying to hide behind one of those other war machines.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so Nick and I worked on this. Nick and I were the original guys working on Flow for the PS3, and we have another segmented creature who eats food and digests it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the creature designs in Journey were at least somewhat inspired by the Flow style of creature.
I always wanted to push it even more, but
We had
only
the
so much
jellyfish. We had the jellyfish sound from Flow for a while in here, and it actually really worked pretty well.
well, yeah.
It was pretty funny.
For a long time, the Guardian's face design was kind of a mystery, and that was definitely one of the hardest things for me to design in the game. And what actually brought me to the final solution was a drawing I did of the actual Journey character, where I tried to make an evil version of him. And even though that never really appears in the game, the idea of kind of an evil version of your own face was really kind of...
I think that's a fan art idea right there, too.
Yeah, it definitely was something that resonates. So.
But it's cool because they have only the one eye, so it just automatically feels sort of off kilter, you know, like there's something wrong or something deformed or something.
They also have the mask like you, but it lifts up to reveal the scary face. So it kind of makes you wonder what is under your own mask, or what is your true nature. Are you good or bad? It's kind of an interesting metaphor. The mountain is a lot closer now.
I always loved in this scene, and then in the next one at the end of the next area, just the even though there's no moving facial parts, like there's no expression going on in terms of like moving eyes or eyebrows or something like that, when they turn to look, I always read so much emotion in that. I always, like, for me personally, it always there's like such a connection there, especially in the next one.
What's really interesting is that originally the character designs that I was doing, we actually wanted them to have facial features. I drew a bunch of things with eyes, and we kept reducing the character design. I mean, it was originally a very humanoid character with arms. At one point, I even had multiple arms on the character. But
You played Goro from Mortal Kombat.
it was pretty crazy. But yeah, due to the game design and the nature of the project, where we wanted to kind of condense the concept of a journey down to its core.
Wait, you gotta go.
Yeah, let's go check out Gary the Scarf.
Don't let that guy lead yet.
Anyway, that's why.
Okay,
Oh, come on, guy.
You just
doesn't
start
wanna
going.
go.
No, he'll follow you.
here's a big one.
Yeah, you'll convince him. It'll be worth it.
We need to see this.
Yeah.
Now let's say hi to Gary.
After the patch, it's gonna be gone.
I hope.
I think John had another one.
Hey guys, who knows what's gonna happen after the patch?
So this is something.
Ah, Gary. Hi, Gary.
What is this?
Gary the Scars is he's just a guy like anyone trying to get by in the world. He found a little place where he can hang out, and occasionally he gets visitors, and he really appreciates it. Looks like our friend
What's
likes
the
him.
true story, John?
So this, I guess, was a leftover from an early prototype that we just never deleted from the level.
Actually,
Yeah, we
That's
forgot about it.
really a harsh thing to say about Gary.
It's a leftover from the Guardian who hasn't finished his meal yet.
Gary's gonna be fine. Don't worry. He's not gonna be eaten by a guardian.
so that's kind of an interesting.
So I think John and the other John, Nesky, found him a few weeks before shipping, but decided it might be a cool piece of history.
Well, we
to leave.
thought, yeah, since he'd already made it this far, it'd be a
He
shame.
survived for many years in that
Can't get rid of
location.
him. It's like a cop on his last day before retirement.